Hey everyone, it's Dink here. I just wanted to record a little tutorial for Age of Pirates 2. At the recommendation of one of my friends, I was told that it would be beneficial if I taught everyone what the hell I was playing. So naturally, as a good general idea. As a good majority of RPGs have, we have skills and perk points, reputation, items, our general stats, and in this section here we have companions and such. They don't really do anything, don't expect interactivity with these guys. We're mostly just using them for their stats. So see here we have this surgeon here. He's here to bolster our defense stat here, which lowers the risk of losing crew in battles. So when we board an enemy ship, he prevents them from dying less. He's a surgeon, doctor. You get the idea, I hope. The important one you want to get, or at least the two important ones in my opinion, are the gunner, who bolsters our accuracy and cannon skills. So these skills right here, these affect the reload times on your cannons as well as the accuracy of their shots. Now you also want to apply perks, because these guys do get perk points as well, to your officers here. So when you have somebody for a gunner position, the gunnery chief, you want to get the gunner perk and the berserk gunner. And if you have if you're going for small caliber or pounder cannons, you might as well get the sniper gunner, because it's not going to affect the reload time that much if it's a smaller caliber cannon. The perks I would recommend for starting out immediately, because you get one perk point at the start of the game, is student. You're a fast learner, you get 10% more experience every time you earn experience. It's essential, because it allows you to earn experience at a faster rate and get more skill points, as well as perk points. The second perk you'd want to get as soon as possible is Bookworm. Spending your nights reading books instead of sleeping was not lost on you. Every 3 levels you receive 2 skill points instead of 1. It's essential. It's like I don't know how to describe it, but it's a good perk. It's one of the best, I would say. Here you have your items. So as you find equipment throughout the land, you'll be able to use them depending on your rank right here. So if you have a lower rank than the equipment that you're trying to use, you won't be able to use it. So there is level gating a little bit. Going into the ships tab down here, we have our captain, where we can see the loyalty of our crew, as well as the crew numbers and health in general. So we have sailors, soldiers, musketeers, and cannoneers. These guys are important. So when you have cannoneers, these guys can die in naval battles. They can die to your cannons randomly exploding. You want to keep a steady supply of cannoneers on board at all times. Soldiers are important for boarding parties. These guys will help you when you go to board an enemy ship, or when an enemy ship tries to board you. They will help defend you and fight on the deck. Musketeers essentially operate as the same as soldiers. In my opinion, they're not worth it because there's a perk that lets you... I can't show it right now, unfortunately, but there is a perk that lets you supply your general soldiers with pistols. So it's not really worth buying and having musketeers on your crew, because there is a salary that you have to pay every 7th day of the month. Officers also have their own salaries, and they will add to the salary of your crew. So the higher the level of your officers, the more gold you'll have to pay them once payday rolls around. A good tip from me is that when these guys level up, you do your best to not go into port, because if you go into port a day before payday, they will ask for a raise, which you will have to immediately pay. So what you want to do when one of your officers always levels up is just meander around as long as possible. You can talk to trade ships to buy food so that crew morale doesn't lower, and you won't have to risk people jumping ship or mutinying you, performing a mutiny. A good idea for starting is always go for a gunner first. Even if it's cheap, you want to bolster these two skills because you want to be able to hit something in naval combat. So as you can see here, my gunnery officer is bolstering my cannons and accuracy skills. I actually have 1 in these skills. I don't have 5. Same with my defense skill. Another tip that I want to give you guys is do not hire fighters. These guys will eventually become obsolete as you level up and get better and better gear and equipment. What these guys do is essentially join you in boarding parties. They don't really they become obsolete after a certain point, so it's not really worth having them around at all. Quartermaster is good for having if you're doing a trade playthrough where you're just playing as a trader. Boastwagon is good for keeping morale as well as boarding. I don't have one right now because I'm not really looking in the market for one. So if you're boarding a lot, which you probably will end up doing, it's good to have a boastwagon, but it's not essential. Navigator, I would say, is essential unless you're like me and dumping points into it, in which case you won't really need one. It might be good to have one, but it's not essential. A skill here that is essential, I want to say, is tactics, because eventually later in the game you will start building up your own naval fleet, and you need tactics to add ships to your fleet. So every 2 skill points in here will allow you to add another ship to your squadron, which means you'll be able to gift a ship to any of your officers, and they will show up here along with your ship. Now, a thing about actually playing with the ship is you have to keep in mind speed, turn rate, how much crew you have, unless it's musketeers, how many cannons are operational, because these can get damaged and they can randomly explode on you for all intents and purposes. Also, when in combat, you'll want to keep an eye on your sails. It will be represented as It will be represented as a blue bar. The crew will be represented as a white bar, and the hull will be represented as a red bar. And that's the same on enemy ships as well. The caliber of your cannons, 24 pounds. These range from 24 to 8 pounders, and they all deal various types of damage. So an 8 pounder isn't going to do much against a galleon. Sails, there are 3 sail types that you can buy. I'll show you that in a moment. So you go to the shipwright. You can just press enter, by the way. Travel, enter again, and then you can select the locations in the port that you are at. So we're at the shipwright right now. And in the lower left corner, you will see the upgrades. We have 3 hull types to choose from. Bronze-plated hull is the best for absorbing damage, but it lowers your speed and maneuverability. If you want a middle ground, you go with copper-plated hull. And as for sails, you will have 3 options to choose from: ordinary canvas to silk sails. Silk offers the best in terms of speed and maneuverability, but they receive 10% more damage. Personally speaking, I'd say that's a good trade-off, but it's up to you. As for cannons, we have everything from copper to bronze and iron. Iron cannons have a negative 40% accidental probability for them exploding on themselves, which is the best. They also, if I recall correctly, deal slightly more damage than bronze and copper. Now at the shipwright, you can also buy various ships. They each come with their own groups of class. A lugger to a sloop is class 6. A schooner to a caravel, pardon, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, is class 5, right here. A flute to a galleon is class 4. And a corvette to a pinnace. I'm gonna keep that in, I think. It's class 3 here, with the frigate being class 2, and having the most guns, as well as crew and hold space, I would say. Personally speaking, I would go for the corvette, as it's fast, has a decent number of guns, and hold space, and it can take a beating rather easily. It can take a beating very well. Another thing I'd like to cover on in this video is trading. So if we go to map with the M key, we can see these isles here in the archipelago. And if you right click on one, you'll see that you have an import and export of goods here. Import means they will buy these goods at a premium, well, export means if you try to sell them there, you'll be at a loss. But that also means that if they're exporting these goods, you can buy them rather cheaply and export them somewhere else for a profit. Combat, when you're boarding, is very Mountain Blade-esque. There's no real directional blocking. You just hold a key that you have to assign in the menu yourself. It's not automatically assigned. Stamina is... sorry about that. If you press ASD on the keyboard, you'll do a dodge. And W is just to go forward, as usual. However, when you're fighting people in general, though, you have a stamina bar up in the top left corner. So every attack drains stamina. When an enemy is guarding like this, you want to do a heavy attack. Default is V. And if you're surrounded by enemies, you want to do a circle slash, which is the B key by default. You also have a heavy attack as well as a poke or thrust. Z is also a feint, so if an enemy attacks you and you press that at the same time, you can do a feint. And shift is a parry. You can do this to drain an enemy's stamina really quick and keep yourself alive, I'd say, as it's very important to parry. That was close. I almost shot that fucker by mistake. Q is to fire your pistol, as I just demonstrated by mistake. I wasn't aiming for that in person in general, but it just happened. That's everything I would like to cover. For making money, you can trade. You can go to one of the islands that have a governor. I believe it's listed. It should be. If not, I would say just find one of the islands that have a governor and you can work for one of the nations. Just keep in mind that if you join, say, England, you might become an enemy of France and Spain. If you go to your logbook here, you can keep track of your quests and such. Rumors, you can buy these at the tavern. They're not important, so I didn't want to cover them. But if you go to the third tab in the logbook, you can keep track of your personal relationship with all of the nations. I believe that is everything I wanted to cover. Oh, right. Making money, you can also go out to the ocean with your crew. So like this. Just go to your ship, press enter, use the arrow keys, select map, and now you're out into the world map. It's very Mountain Blade-esque, or Shores of Gold, I should say. And eventually you will find pirates that will attack you. Now you can board these enemy ships and steal all of their cargo as well as their gold. I hope everyone learned something from this video. Thank you all for watching. Goodbye.